Hello, everyone. How are you, book lovers? Today is day 4 of our project, 7 Days of Halloween. Hello, Hainara. Do I say it right? Hello, nice to have you here. Tell me, how do you like the stories we've read so far? We've read Roald Dahl's The Landlady. That was our starting point. We've read The Shoemaker and the Devil by Anton Chekhov. We read yesterday The Apparition by Guy de Maupassant. That's a very creepy story, one of my favorites. And today we're going to talk about one of the masters of suspense and spooky tales. And I'm talking about Edgar Allan Poe. We could not go through Halloween without mentioning Edgar Allan Poe. I'm sure you've heard about him before. So Edgar Allan Poe, American writer, poet, editor, literary critic. He was born in 1809 and he died in 1849. Hainara says that she loves him. I do too. So many spooky tales. It was hard for me to choose which one to read today. We're going to read the Cask of Amontillado. Have you heard of that one? Hainara wrote 2 articles about him once. Very nice. Which stories have you written about? Nicolieta, how are you? Nice to have you. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. So Poe is also a master of short stories, right? He wrote tales of mystery and the macabre. He is a key figure in American Romanticism, so the end of the mid-19th century, the turn to the 19th century. And the story we'll read today, The Cask of Amontillado, was published in November 1846 in a women's magazine called Goody's Lady's Book. At the time, it was the most popular periodical in the US. Remember that mid-19th century in America, it was the boom of periodicals and literary magazines. So literature was becoming more affordable and accessible because they were circulating in these cheap periodicals, cheaper than a book, for instance. And there are so many stories written at that period and published in this manner. Poe published a lot of stories in this way. And this story specifically combines Carnival in Italy, which I think Carnival can be quite a creepy atmosphere, right? The masks that hides your identity. Hello, Andrea or Andre. And so he combines Carnival in Italy with mystery. So let's get started. And one more thing before we get on to the story, I would just like to remind you that there are still a few hours left if you want to join the online course, the Creative Reader Academy, an Introduction to Literary Studies. Classes start on Monday. You can follow them at your own pace. They are pre-recorded, 6 modules with 4 to 6 lessons and 1 weekly live session. So we just like this. We discuss the modules and the content of that week, but of course only for the members of only for the students of this course. So if you still want to join, you have a few hours left. Go to booksandculture.club. If you're really interested in the course and you have questions or you're still unsure, just send me a message and we'll talk about it and we'll find a way for you to join this group that starts on Monday. So let's get ready and read The Cask of Amontillado, one of my favorite stories by Poe. It's also very easy to find it online. All these 19th century authors are free, public domain, right? So here we go. The Cask of Amontillado. Fortunato had hurt me 1,000 times, and I had suffered quietly. But then I learned that he had laughed at my proud name, Montresor, the name of an old and honored family. I promised myself that I would make him pay for this, that I would have revenge. You must not suppose, however, that I spoke of this to anyone. I would make him pay, yes, but I would act only with the greatest care. I must not suffer as a result of taking my revenge. A wrong is not made right in that manner. And also the wrong would not be made right unless Fortunato knew that he was paying and knew who was forcing him to pay. I gave Fortunato no cause to doubt me. I continued to smile in his face, and he did not understand that I was now smiling at the thought of what I planned for him, at the thought of my revenge. Fortunato was a strong man, a man to be feared, but he had one great weakness. He liked to drink good wine, and indeed, he drank much of it. So he knew a lot about fine wines and proudly believed that he was a trained judge of them. I too knew old wines well, and I bought the best I could find. And wine, I thought, wine would give me my revenge. That's the beginning of the story, and it is a theme that is very recurrent in Gothic stories, that is revenge. So it's a first-person narration. You see that it's written in I, right? I would make him pay. And the I in this story is, well, the narrator is Montresor. And he wants revenge on his so-called friend, Fortunato, because he had spoken badly of his family name, and that he cannot accept. But he's going to take his time, he's going to plan his revenge, and no one will know about that. He will continue to act just normally, but laugh inside thinking about the plan he has in store for Fortunato, and he's going to get him with wine. He's going to explore Fortunato's passion for wine to put this revenge into action. So let's continue. It was almost dark one evening in the spring when I met Fortunato in the street, alone. He spoke to me more warmly than was usual, for already he had drunk more wine than was good for him. I acted pleased to see him, and I shook his hand as if he had been my closest friend. Fortunato, how are you? Montresor, good evening, my friend. My dear Fortunato, I am indeed glad that I have met you. I was just thinking of you. For I have been tasting my new wine. I have bought a full cask of a wine which they tell me is Amontillado. But Amontillado? Quite impossible. I know, it does not seem impossible, as I could not find you. I was just going to talk to Lucrezi. If anyone understands wines, it is Lucrezi. He will tell me Lucrezi. He does not know one wine from another. But they say he knows as much about wines as you know. Come now, let us go. Go where? To your vaults, to taste the wine. No, my friend, no. I can see that you are not well, and the vaults are cold and wet. I do not care. Let us go. I'm well enough. The cold is nothing. Amontillado. Someone is playing games with you. And Lucrezi. Lucrezi knows nothing about wines. Nothing at all. As he spoke, Fortunato took my arm, and I allowed him to hurry me to my great stone palace, where my family, the Montresors, had lived for centuries. There was no one at home. I had told the servants that they must not leave the palace, as I would not return until the following morning, and they must care for the place. This, I knew, was enough to make it certain that they would all live as soon as my back was turned. I took down from their places on the wall 2 brightly burning lights. I gave one of these to Fortunato and led him to a wide doorway. There we could see the stone steps going down into the darkness. So you see what's happening here, right? So Montresor finds Fortunato in the street and puts his plan into action. He speaks of this very rare type of wine, Amontillado, of course, to get Fortunato's attention and curiosity, and to bring him into his vaults where the wines are kept in his house. He also made sure that the servants would not be at home by saying that he would not be present, so that the servants thought, well, we could just leave and he would never know. So he makes sure the house is empty, and it's just the 2 of them going down into the vaults, into the darkness, to try this wine. Asking him to be careful as he followed, I went down before him, down under the ground, deep under the old walls of my palace. We came finally to the bottom of the steps and stood there a moment together. The earth which formed the floor was cold and hard. We were entering the last resting place of the dead of the Montresor family. Here too we kept our finest wines, here in the cool, dark, still air under the ground. Fortunato's step was not sure because of the wine he had been drinking. He looked uncertainly around him, trying to see through the thick darkness which pushed in around us. Here our brightly burning light seemed weak indeed, but our eyes soon became used to the darkness. We could see the bones of the dead lying in large piles along the walls. The stones of the walls were wet and cold. You see the atmosphere that Poe creates here by the use of certain words. So, words that refer to coldness, darkness, humidity. So, wet and cold, and the bones, death, the bones laying around. So, the wines share the same space as the dead from the Montresor family. So it is not a coincidence that Poe combines these themes, right? And leading, literally, leading Fortunato into darkness and death, literally and metaphorically. From the long rows of bottles which were lying on the floor, among the bones, I chose one which contained a very good wine. Since I did not have anything to open the bottle with, I struck the stone wall with it and broke off the small end. I offered the bottle to Fortunato. Here, Fortunato, drink some of this fine Medoc. It will help to keep us warm. Drink. Thank you, my friend. I drink to the dead who lie sleeping around us. And I, Fortunato, I drink to your long life. Sarcastic much? I drink to your long life. Oh, a very fine wine indeed. But the Amontillado? It is farther on, come on. We walked on for some time. We were now under the river's bed, and water fell in drops upon us from above. Deeper into the ground we went, past still more bones. Your vaults are many and large. There seemed to be no end to them. We are a great family, and an old one. 'Tis not far now, but I can see you are trembling with the cold. Come, let us go back before it is too late. It is nothing. Let us go on. But first, another drink of your Medoc. I took up from among the bones another bottle. It was another wine of a fine quality, a de Grave. Again, I broke off the neck of the bottle. Fortunato took it and drank it all without stopping for breath. He laughed and threw the empty bottle over his shoulder. So the deeper they get into the vaults, the colder, the darker it is, and the more drunk Fortunato becomes. All part of Montresor's plan? Tell me, what do you think? And what does he plan to do there? Write in the comments. I would like to know your thoughts on this. What do you think Montresor plans to do? So let's continue. We went on deeper and deeper into the earth. Finally, we arrived at a vault in which the air was so old and heavy that our lights almost died. Against 3 of the walls there were piles of bones higher than our heads. From the 4th wall someone had pulled down all the bones, and they were spread all around us on the ground. In the middle of the wall was an opening into another vault, if I can call it that. A little room about 3 feet wide, 6 or 7 feet high, and perhaps 4 feet deep. It was hardly more than a hole in the wall. Go on, I said. Go in. The Amontillado is in there. Fortunato continued to go forward uncertainly. I followed him immediately. Soon, of course, he reached the back wall. He stood there a moment, facing the wall, surprised and wondering. In that wall were 2 heavy iron rings. A short chain was hanging from one of these and a lock from the other. Before Fortunato could guess what was happening, I closed the lock and chained him tightly to the wall. I stepped back. Fortunato, I said, put your hand against the wall. You must feel how the water runs over it. Once more I ask you, please, will you not go back? No? If not, then I must leave you. But first, I must do everything I can for you. But the Amontillado. Oh, yes. Yes, indeed, the Amontillado. As I spoke these words, I began to search among the bones. Throwing them to one side, I found the stones which earlier I had taken down from the wall. Quickly, I began to build the wall again, covering the hole where Fortunato stood trembling. Montresor, what are you doing? I continued working. I could hear him pulling at the chain, shaking it wildly. Only a few stones remained to put in their place. Montresor, this is a very good joke indeed. Many times we'll laugh about this, as we drink our wine together. Of course, as we drink the Amontillado. But is it not late? Should we not be going back? They will be expecting us. Let us go. As I said this, I lifted the last stone from the ground. Montresor, for the love of God. Yes, for the love of God. I heard no answer. Fortunato, I cried. Fortunato? I heard only a soft, low sound, a half-cry of fear. My heart grew sick. It must have been the cold. I hurried to force the last stone into its position, and I put the old bones again in a pile against the wall. For half a century now, no human hand has touched them. May he rest in peace. And that is how the story ends. What do you think about this? So what happened? What was Montresor's plan all along? He lured Fortunato, Reinado is the ghost. He lured Fortunato into the depths of this never-ending vault, taking him deeper and deeper into the earth, darker and colder, with the promise of a very exotic wine. But in the end, he took him to the very last chamber, got him to go inside. He grabbed his hands and put him tight against the wall and built the wall back, stone after stone after stone. So what did he do? He walled Fortunato inside. And to this day, what was the last sentence? To this day, for half a century now, no woman hand has touched them. May he rest in peace. Reinada says, it is a very ironic short story as well. Interesting. Why would you say that? Where do you identify the irony in this text? And all because Fortunato said something bad about the name of Montresor. And where is he going to end up? In the very vault, amongst the bones, the dead of the Montresor family, buried deep with the Montresor tradition and family history, the very one he despised, right? Oh yes, Renata says, Fortunato is a name that reminds us of fortune. That's indeed very perceptive. And it's quite the opposite that happens to him, right? Nothing fortunate about this whole situation. So I hope you enjoyed this short story in day 4 of our 7 days of Halloween. Our next story is a longer one, so we might have to split that into 2 sessions. We'll see how that goes. We're going to read one of my favorite authors, the American Edith Wharton, and we're going to read the story, The Duchess at Prayer. So I expect you tomorrow at 7 o'clock. So today we started a little bit earlier, but tomorrow at 7 o'clock p.m. Central European time, we're going to read Edith Wharton's The Duchess at Prayer. Looking forward to hearing to reading your thoughts about it. And remember, there's still a little bit of time left for you to join the Creative Reader Academy. Hello, Lucas. And you can see the replay of this live soon. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you tomorrow for Edith Wharton and Duchess of Prayer. And if you're joining the Creative Reader Academy, I'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye.